Hello, everyone, and welcome into some volleyball preview coverage. Nebraska takes on Pepperdine this Saturday, 7 a.m. in Lincoln. And joining me to kind of break down the Pepperdine volleyball team is Al Epstein. He is the play-by-play man for the Waves. Al, you're all the way out in Malibu or in California, that area. Thank you so much for joining me to be able to talk some volleyball.
Geoff, it's great to be with you. Yeah, we struggle to be out in Malibu. The university overlooks the Pacific Ocean, so it's a pretty nice view and a nice place to go out and work and broadcast games. And we're really excited about the coming season. Pepperdine figures have a really good team. It's a great way to start the season in Lincoln. It's going to be a great atmosphere.
Now, Al, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been doing play-by-play? How did you get involved in that? Kind of give me some background.
Well, for me, I've been at Pepperdine for 38 years. I've been broadcasting their college basketball, their baseball, women's volleyball, men's volleyball, which they have a great program, do their baseball games, some women's soccer, done PA. So I've been with them a long, long time. I've done something like 1,127 consecutive men's basketball games dating back to the mid 1980s. So I'm pretty familiar with the program. As an ex-athlete who wanted to become a Major League Baseball player, wasn't quite good enough. Had a lot of injuries over the years. Did play freshman baseball at UCLA and their summer league team, but that was about as far as I got. But I always wanted to be involved in sports, and fortunately, thank goodness for Pepperdine, they've had me all these years. It's been a great relationship, and hopefully it'll continue for a lot longer.
Wow, 1,100 over 1,100 straight men's basketball
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
Talk about an Iron Man streak.
That's true. That's true. I guess I'm the Lou Gehrig of sportscasting.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. So,
Now,
yeah.
how'd you get, obviously, men's basketball, all those games there? How'd you get involved in calling the volleyball games? Was that a thing from the start, or when did you get into that?
No, that actually grew out of doing the basketball, and it's the video streaming and radio became much more popular and more pertinent to websites. They wanted to expand, and they asked me if I wanted to do volleyball. And the funny thing is, years ago when I first started doing volleyball, I had no idea. I'd never seen a volleyball match. Literally plunked down a CD player and recorded it. Never seen a box score, and I have learned it over the years and really, really enjoyed. And the same thing happened with baseball as well as women's soccer. I hadn't done the last couple of years, but I did for about 6 years. And I do the men's volleyball at Pepperdine, which is really a strong program, 5 national titles. So, yeah, no, but it's just been great. I love doing volleyball.
Well, that's awesome, Alan. Let's talk some volleyball. Why don't we? Obviously, a productive season last year for the Waves with 22-6, lost opening round of the tournament. So, what's kind of been the vibe over the offseason for this team? Some changes I've noticed, 6 new freshmen, a grad transfer. Kind of break it down for me. What are the changes been over the offseason?
Well, there hasn't been a lot. I mean, the nucleus of last year's team is extremely strong. The key, of course, was Rachel Aaron's deciding to come back for a 5th year. That's a 2-time All-American, probably as good a player as that you'll see this year for Nebraska. Terrific player. So with her coming back, and I think head coach Scott Warren realized, number one, he's got a very, very good team this year. And secondly, he wants to strengthen his RPI in case they don't win a very strong and competitive West Coast conference. He wants to get that RPI up and get an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So he is really scheduled this year that probably is as tough a schedule as I've ever seen.
And yeah, you mentioned that nucleus is still there. Grace Chillingworth is back. She was the freshman of the year last year. So what's her development? What's been the feel around that returning group aside from Rachel Aarons?
Well, most teams are going to key on Rachel Aarons. And Grace Chillingworth was the freshman of the year in the West Coast Conference last year, had over 300 kills, athletic, the power hitter, 6'3", really, really good players. So if they try to double and triple team Rachel, they do have other weapons along with Emma Hammerman, another 6'3" outside hitter, another power hitter. I think two big question marks were, number one, the freshman middle blocker, Vanessa Polka, who played very well in the exhibition the other day, another team with 9 blocks. And then you've got in the back row. And Coach Wong likes to use a lot of ball handlers in the back row. He feels that's their strength. They're a strong serving team, and they handle the ball extremely well. So they lost a great libero and Madison Shields, but they've got Trinity Stanger, who's very, very good, and then the transfer from Pacific, who was an all-conference player a couple years ago, and Riley Patterson, who will play in the back row as well. So, overall, when you have that kind of experience and a lot of talent, Meg Brown, who's in the middle, is a really strong blocker at 6'3". She was the freshman of the year in the conference a couple of years ago. So when you combine all that, they're well coached by Scott Wong. You got to make it a very, very good team. I expect them to be very competitive come Saturday night against Nebraska.
Yeah, and you mentioned I was Madison Shields, former libero, West Coast Conference libero of the year in 2020. I mean, you already mentioned her replacement. Can you talk about more of her and what different skill set she brings in a new look at that position for him?
Well, Trinity Stanger, as a freshman, played quite a bit last year. She was more of a defensive specialist. So she's still learning the position. I would imagine that she will be the libero this year throughout the season. But she has great court sense. She has a good feel for the game, and I think that's one of her strengths. And hopefully she can keep the ball in play and give the Waves a chance to score and to get some more opportunities.
Yeah. You did mention briefly the exhibition against Long Beach State on the 20th. Kind of take me through your thoughts on how they performed there and kind of the strengths and weaknesses of this roster that you've seen early on.
Well, they used a number of players. I think Scott Wong wanted to take a look at some of the first-year players. They have actually 8 new players, I think 5 freshmen. So I think that's something more than anything else, just to take a look at some of those players. I was a little surprised that it ended in a 2-2 tie. Long Beach State, though, is going to be much, much improved. They're picked 4th in the Big West Conference. Pepperdine is picked 3rd in the WCC behind Brigham Young and San Diego, who are both ranked 2 really strong programs. So for them, they didn't hit real well. Rachel Aaron's only played, I think, 1 or 2 sets. I think it was more about just taking a look at what he had and seeing some things about the newcomers, and hopefully got the desired result that he was looking for. And Vanessa Polk, the freshman middle blocker, led the team in blocks with 9. So that's a good sign. She played all 4 sets. So that's certainly a positive. And Riley Patterson and Trinity Stanger were in the back row, and they played pretty well.
And Al, you mentioned that you expect them to be pretty competitive against Nebraska. And I mean, this can be just past this match as well. What's going to be the recipe for victories for this team once the season gets going this weekend?
Well, again, it's a strong serving team. So they do put a lot of pressure on the opponent. And Rachel Aaron, she set a single season mark last year with 51 service aces. So, and then the others can serve extremely well. Meg Brown's a good server. So they've got a lot of weapons at the service line, and then their ball handling, their ability to keep the ball in play, give them chances to score at every opportunity. So when you have that, you're going to be very, very effective. And again, it's an experienced team for the most part. So going to Nebraska and Lincoln, I saw you had something like almost 8,000 for your scrimmage, which was pretty mind-boggling because Pepperdine doesn't draw 8,000 in the entire year. To tell you the truth, they draw 200-300. It's a small arena. It's about 3,000. So it's going to be a great atmosphere. But I think the fact that their experience will pay dividends for them going into a pretty hostile atmosphere and to say the least, the #1 ranked team in the country, which is a great opportunity for any school to come in and do it on the road.
Yeah, that'll be a primetime matchup at 7 o'clock in Lincoln. That should
Absolutely.
be pretty fun. Now, Al, just with everyone returning and the veteran core, what's the expectations? And then kind of, you could put your own prediction in there if you want, but in historical context, how good is this team set the lineup compared to past teams?
Well, for Scott Wong, I think this is his best team. He's now in his 8th year as head coach. I think the expectations is always to win a conference championship and get to the NCAA tournament. I think this year is no exception. You play in a league with Brigham Young, who will be leaving the West Coast Conference after this year, going to the Big 12. So that's to get them out of the league will make a big difference. And then San Diego is very, very strong. I think San Diego, and although ranked 25th in the country is probably a lot better than that. In fact, I actually had them winning the WCC in the preseason poll, followed by Brigham Young and Pepperdine. But Pepperdine should be right there. They won 14-4 last year in conference. They tie for second. It's a team that I think that will be right at the top at the end of the season. If they don't win it, I think they've got enough to win this league championship, and this year might be their best chance.
Well, there you have it from the play-by-play of their own, Al Epstein. Thank you so much, Al, for giving us a preview. And I guess I want to hear from your perspective too. What do you think of Nebraska from what you've seen from them, the research you've done? From your perspective, how do they look?
Well, I'm not doing the game, thank goodness, because to go back there, Nebraska certainly is going to be a big favorite. I expect them probably to prevail 3-1 over Pepperdine, but certainly Nebraska cannot overlook the Waves. It's a really good team. I looked at some of the size of Nebraska. They're about 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in there in the outside middle. I think Pepperdine matches up with them extremely well. You know, when you go into an environment like Pepperdine or any other school, into a place like Lincoln or, in a hostile environment that's going to have 7,000 or 8,000 fans, it's not so much it might hinder Pepperdine as it will help the home team, and for the home team to feed off that emotion and excitement and energy. And I think that's the big difference. So how Pepperdine handles that and just focuses on what they have to do against a really good Nebraska team. Obviously, you're ranked number 1 in the nation. There's a reason for it. So, and you play at such a tough conference. But for Pepperdine, the first weekend to play a game like this will be a big, big challenge. But again, Nebraska cannot afford to look past them in any circumstances. Yeah, it should be, I think, a very competitive match. And the whole tournament should be competitive.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Al, for joining me. It's going to be a good one. 7:00 Saturday night. That will be on BTN Plus. It's going to be the star. It's going to be the top matchup of the weekend of that Player Emeritus Challenge. And I'm excited to go in there and enjoy it. And I take it you're going to be watching as well, Al.
I will be following for sure, and excited for the team. I think their first game is 7:00 at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we'll be up bright and early to watch their first match. And I expect them to get a couple of wins on Friday, as is Nebraska, and have 2 unbeaten teams come in on Saturday. And again, the Waves come in ranked number 31. I think that's too low. I think they're a top 20 team when it's all said and done. So expect really an old-fashioned shootout on Saturday night in Lincoln. It's going to be great.
Some fireworks. Some fireworks going in the Devaney Center. Can't wait. Thanks so much, Al, for joining me.
All right. Thanks, Geoff. Thanks again.